Welcome back. We will wrap up the day by walking through two case studies. The first case study, focusing on a child in active treatment, is presented by John Longenecker, Ask Education Support Navigator at Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU. John has 30 years of experience as a special education teacher. In addition, he designed and developed a community program for adults with disabilities to provide opportunities for socialization. Welcome, John.
Thank you. First of all, my name is John Longenecker. I'm the Education Support Navigator at VCU, Children's Hospital of Richmond. I would like to say I feel a little bit of pressure after following those young adults. They were absolutely amazing, and as I will say, I've met some of them in real life, and as impressive as they were this afternoon, if you meet them in real life, they're even more impressive. So I just wanted to thank them for that. It's hard to follow that, but I'm going to try. Going to make this short and sweet. But just going to spend a few minutes with you to just discuss a case study of a young man that I've been working with for the past few months. And again, I promise this is going to be quick and kind of to the point. Um, so, so meet Jericho. He's 10 years old. He's in fourth grade. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor last year. But I'm going to let Mom tell you a little bit about him and what took place prior to.
Hi, I'm Margaret Wright, the mom of Jericho, who is a 10-year-old boy who was diagnosed this past February of 2023 with pilocytic astrocytoma, which is the brain tumor, and it was in his posterior fossa. Prior to being diagnosed with the brain tumor, we had been struggling for a couple of years with figuring out why he was failure to thrive. He wasn't gaining weight, growing. He would vomit when he ate. It was a big struggle. We were working with GI, trying to figure out what was going on. So he had been failure to thrive, which, as we know, isn't good for cognitive development anyway. But regardless of that, he is still a very funny, bright kid. When we finally got diagnosed, he was immediately scheduled for brain surgery in February of last year, 2023. And of course, the posterior fossa is the part of the brain where you have language development and just a bunch of things that go into just cognitive processing and things like that. So post-surgery last year, he had he was doing a lot of word finding, and he had a lot of memory issues. We of course, were doing PT, OT, and speech. Within a few months, he was back to what I would consider normal. We started in chemotherapy this past summer, and he'll be on chemo through the summer of 2024. So he is on, right now, he's currently on rounds of maintenance. And so starting into the school year, I coordinated with John through Ask, who's the education support who at VCU on the HEMOC floor, and he was really helpful in helping me advocate in Jericho's 504 meeting. He attended that virtually, which was super helpful because there were things I did not know we needed to advocate for, as far as, number one, he's going to chemotherapy weekly, so he's going to be missing a lot of school. He's also, even though he had grown leaps and bounds since surgery, he was still having a few memory issues, some processing issues. Just, he had brain surgery and now he's doing chemotherapy. And so there were things that I wouldn't have thought to advocate for. I was so appreciative. His school and the 504 planning team had been very open to whatever, they were incredibly open to any suggestions that John had, that I had, and they said, we can always adjust, which we probably will now that the school year is partially in.
Okay, so just thinking about the different things that you heard today, the different people that you heard speak today, we had some great speakers and some great information. Just think about what you would do. I'm technologically challenged, so I can't see what's going on in chat. But if you'd like to throw some ideas on maybe some accommodations that you would recommend to a school, just feel free to throw them in there. So I met with mom the summer, like in July of this past summer, and we talked about having a meeting with the school prior to school starting. We knew that he coming off of this treatment, coming off of his surgery and the brain tumor, that he was going to have some issues and some concerns. And the school was very willing. They seemed to work with us. So we did meet with the school. We came up with a plan. They did find him eligible for a 504 plan. I explained to the school at the meeting about Jericho's tumor, the treatments that he had. We talked about late effects and how they can affect a child socially, emotionally, and cognitively. And although we were unsure exactly how he would react and do in school, we did know some things, so we were able to get started. We knew that he was going to have difficulty with his memory because that was something that was already being shown. We knew that he was going to be missing some time. We knew his stamina wasn't going to be as high as other students. We knew that we needed to be careful with his port. We knew that he was going to be probably more susceptible to viruses and such, and due to his immune system just being rebuilding. And we knew probably that he would be exhausted by the end of the day, and so we needed to be aware of not giving him too much work to do when he got home. So these are the accommodations that we originally came up with as a team. Allowed to eat snacks and drink water throughout the day just to keep his stamina up. Allowed to take a nap or rest in a quiet area, a classroom, or in another location. Again, in case he got too tired and just needed a break, just need to kind of reset everything. Reduce the number of problems that he had to work on and the quantity of his work, so we could just focus on the quality and make sure we had understanding of every concept. Provide a prompt to wash hands and use hand sanitizer prior to eating, which probably is good for all fourth graders. Avoid activities that could impact the upper right chest area due to his port, and allow for alternative physical activities when appropriate. And extended time up to 1 day to complete graded assignments, not to hold Jericho accountable for any timed tests. And then also preferential treatment, seating close to the teacher. After a few months of school, still got to see Jericho, once a month at clinic, and just talking with mom. There were some concerns that were starting to pop up. She started to notice some different things. But again, I'm going to let her explain exactly the things that she started noticing.
That there were some areas of Jericho's academics that he was doing really well on, and some areas that he was doing really poorly on. So, for example, when there were things like social studies and some science things where it required memorization, even though he and I would go through all of his study guides and study every night, he would still get an F on a test, and we were just couldn't figure it out. And so one of the solutions that his teacher has suggested in his parent-teacher conference, which I was really appreciative that John also attended with us, was that she could maybe sit with him and read the test to him, even though his reading level is very high. It appears that sometimes he'll read a question and he won't quite process exactly what it's asking. And so when you sit down and really talk with him through the question, he was able to remember a lot more. So his grades really improved once his teacher started doing his tests with him and just, sort of talking him through, not giving him the answers, but, asking him the question and having him talk through what he remembered studying. And then he was able to really remember a lot of the information that we had gone through and we had discussed. So that was a really big help. I have been really appreciative that his teacher was open to accommodating some of these things, even though I know with the 504, she's not getting any extra help. She's just, accommodating that. But that is something that we will probably be adding into the 504, as well as, just a couple of little things. But it's been really, really helpful being mindful of the fact that, he seems to be, doing so much better now that he's been diagnosed and he's in treatment than he was a year ago, where he was failure to thrive and couldn't even do a whole day at school because he would be so tired and so exhausted and falling asleep at his desk and not able to go out to recess because he would just be pale and tired. And now we're like, oh, he's got so much more energy, but there are all of these little things that we just wouldn't think about unless you know we had advocated for, hey, he's gone through a lot this year. So, I'm really appreciative of all of the efforts of the team.
So as Mom stated, I joined them for the
There are
parent.
some areas of Jericho.
Sorry. As Mom stated, I joined them for the parent teacher conference per her request, and after discussing with the teacher some of the concerns that Mom had about his remembering and recalling the information for the tests and quizzes, we asked the teacher kind of informally if she could read those questions to him, just to kind of see if it would change the outcome and see if he would remember more. She was more than willing to do what she could to help him. I also had Jericho come in and did some educational testing on him, and found a couple things. This slide shows some of the things that we found through the educational testing, that his short-term memory difficulties. He definitely had some slower processing speed, significant delay in his writing fluency. His reading, though, was well within the average range. So we connected with the school, and decided that we would try to tweak the 504 plan. We asked for another meeting, and went into the meeting really thinking that, hey, we're going to ask for a read to see if a teacher or an adult could read Jericho the questions and kind of help him process through the questions so he could answer them. And after talking with the teacher and with the other members of the team there, the teacher said that she noticed that when Jericho actually read the questions to himself, that he was able to kind of figure out the answer and remember the information much better. So that seemed to be a much better option for him if it was working. So we, instead of putting a read to, we just put in there something so he could read the questions out loud to himself, which again is much more independent. He's not relying on somebody else to do something for him, and it just seemed like a much better way to handle things, and it was working. That's something kind of that the teacher added to the team, and into this plan. Now, just knowing also that he had the significant delay in the writing fluency, I did ask the teacher about his writing. She said that she noticed that the more he wrote, the longer, if he wrote more than just a couple sentences, that she kind of saw a gradual decline in how well the sentences were written. Tend to get a little confused after a couple sentences, kind of veer off topic. The sentences would have more errors the farther along he went. So we also added in there as well. We talked about adding a speech to text software for writing assignments longer than a paragraph. And lastly, we put 1-to-1 for all state and district assessments, just to allow him to read those things out loud to himself, so he could really get a good idea of what he knows. But the thing I really want to focus on, this was such a great experience, and the fact that the school was wonderful, as most schools are, and willing to help. But just the collaboration that we had, and I think that's kind of the best model to use. And this case really shows it. It's Mom, the school team, and myself. I think we all kind of added to the plan, and the working together we were able to really come up with, I think, a plan that's really going to help Jericho, and has been helping him to kind of show his true knowledge and be able to demonstrate that. So, just having the parents involved, because they see their child when they come home. They see if they're exhausted, they see if they're struggling with homework, they see if they're working hours trying to get homework done when it should just take a little while. Teachers see what's going on at school. We may talk to the child. I may ask a child and a parent, how are things going, and they don't see anything at home, but then at school you start to notice those things. And thinking back to kind of what some of the young adults were talking about, some of these things were happening. So mom, the parents, teachers, giving their input. Hopefully I can give a little bit of input that can help just add light on what some of these late effects are, and some things to look for, and talk about some strategies that have helped in the past with other young people that I've worked with. And when the students are old enough and can express those things, I'm constantly asking them, what's working, what's not working. Do you notice this? Do you notice that? Things like that, just to kind of get their input, because they're really the ones that can give us the best information on how they learn. I think one of the young adults, I think it was Aaron, said that he kind of learned ways to overcome his new learning style. And we want, as a team, as a school team, to help these young people figure out how to do that. So I was just so impressed with the school, the parents here. Jericho's wonderful. If you ever get a chance to meet him, he's just a great kid, and he works hard, which always makes things easier on us as well. But just that idea of, and the feeling of just collaborating together and working together to come up with these plans, I think is just such a key part to making things successful. So I appreciate your time. I told you I wouldn't take this too long. I do have a little bit of time for questions. If there are any questions, you can put them in chat, and then I guess Susan can let me know if there are any, because I can't see them.
We have one that just came in. Is it not possible to establish a school for them to attend at their pace after recovery, to avoid pressure to meet up with lost classes or courses? So I'm wondering if this question is like an independent school, like a separate school, though childhood cancer is actually fairly rare. So it is unlikely that there are enough children in any given location, except maybe really big cities.
And if I could also add that I'm a big proponent of socialization, and that social piece being so important. And our child life specialist talked about play, but just the social piece is so important in a child's development and a child's overall education, that I think being with their peers is